Hello, and welcome to Podcast for English. My name is Linda. I'm really happy you're here today. This channel is for people who want to learn English in a simple and natural way. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to speak fast. You don't need to understand every word. You only need to listen. You can listen while you rest. You can listen while you work. You can listen while you live your daily life. Take a deep breath, relax your body, clear your mind. Now, let's begin today's English lesson together. In today's podcast, we are talking about a very common problem. Many people say, I understand English, but I cannot speak. Today's topic is this: why you understand English but cannot speak. If this is your experience, you are not alone. This happens to millions of learners. You listen, you understand, you read, you follow. But when it is time to speak, nothing comes out. Your mind feels empty, or your words feel stuck. This problem does not mean you are bad at English. It does not mean you are not smart. It does not mean you failed. It means your learning has been unbalanced. Understanding and speaking are different skills. They grow in different ways. Many learners develop understanding first. This is natural. The problem is not understanding. The problem is how speaking has been trained. In this episode, we will talk about why this gap exists, what blocks speaking, and how speaking develops over time. You do not need to force yourself. You do not need to panic. You only need to understand what is really happening. Because once you understand the reason, the problem feels less scary. And when fear disappears, speaking becomes possible. Let us start by looking calmly at the situation. You understand English. That is already progress. Now we will explore why speaking has not caught up yet. Understanding usually comes first. This is normal. It is how the brain learns language. When you were a child, you listened first. You listened for a long time. You did not speak immediately. You heard sounds. You heard words. You heard sentences. Only later, you began to speak. Language learning works the same way. Listening and understanding come before speaking. This is not a problem. It is a stage. Many learners think something is wrong because they cannot speak yet. But nothing is wrong. Your brain is still collecting input. Input is what feeds language. Without input, there is nothing to say. When you understand English, it means your brain has already learned a lot. It recognizes words. It follows meaning. It understands situations. This is progress. Speaking is a different process. Speaking requires output. Output needs confidence. It needs speed. It needs coordination. These things take time. Understanding is passive. Speaking is active. Active skills develop slower. This is true for any skill. You can understand music before you play it. You can understand sports before you perform them. Language is the same. Your brain is building a foundation. A foundation must be strong before you build on it. If you rush speaking before the foundation is ready, you feel stuck. You feel frustrated. But the problem is not lack of ability. It is timing. Understanding first is natural. It means your brain is learning correctly. The gap you feel is not failure. It is transition. A quiet phase between listening and speaking. This phase often feels uncomfortable, but it is necessary. Your brain is organizing language. It is preparing patterns. When the time is right, speaking will begin to appear, not suddenly, but gradually. So if you understand English but cannot speak yet, do not panic. You are not behind. You are exactly where many learners are. And this stage is part of the process, not the end of it. Many things can block speaking, even when understanding is already there. The biggest block is fear. Fear of making mistakes, fear of sounding wrong, fear of being judged. When fear appears, the brain protects itself. It stops words from coming out. This is not laziness. It is safety. Your brain thinks it is safer to stay quiet. Another block is overthinking. You understand English, so your mind knows many rules. When you try to speak, your mind checks everything. Grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation. This checking takes time. Speaking needs speed. When thinking is too slow, words get stuck. Another block is perfection. You want to speak well. You want correct sentences. This desire creates pressure. Pressure tightens the mind. A tight mind cannot flow. Speaking needs flow. Another common block is lack of practice and output. You may listen a lot. You may read a lot. But you may not speak often. Understanding grows without speaking. Speaking does not. This is normal. Speaking is a muscle. If you do not use it, it feels weak. Weak does not mean broken. It means untrained. Another block is translation. You think in your first language. Then you translate. This takes time. While you translate, the moment passes. The conversation moves on. This creates frustration. Frustration creates more fear. Another hidden block is habit. You are used to listening. You are used to staying silent. Your brain is comfortable there. Speaking feels new. New things feel risky. So the brain resists. All these blocks are mental, not ability, not intelligence, not potential. They are signals that speaking needs a different kind of training. Not more grammar, not more rules, but safety, practice, gentle use. Understanding alone does not remove these blocks. Time and the right conditions do. Once you see these blocks clearly, they feel less powerful. Because blocks can be softened, not forced. And when blocks soften, speaking can begin to move again. Slowly, naturally. Speaking feels harder than listening and reading. This feeling is real. And it has a reason. Listening is receptive. You receive information. Reading is receptive. You receive information. Speaking is productive. You must create. Creating is always harder than receiving. When you listen, you can pause inside your mind. When you read, you can go back. You control the speed. Speaking does not wait. Speaking happens in real time. There is no pause button. This time, pressure makes speaking feel difficult. Another reason speaking feels harder is exposure. You are exposed when you speak. People can hear you. They can react. They can respond. This exposure creates vulnerability. Vulnerability creates fear. Listening and reading do not expose you. You can make mistakes silently. Speaking makes mistakes visible. This difference is important. Another reason speaking feels harder is coordination. Speaking needs many skills at the same time. You must think. You must choose words. You must use grammar. You must control pronunciation. All of this happens together. Listening and reading do not require this. They require understanding only. Speaking requires action. Action under time pressure is challenging. Another reason is habit. Most learners spend more time listening and reading. These skills become comfortable. Speaking gets less practice. Less practice feels harder. Harder feels scary. Another factor is self-awareness. When you speak, you hear yourself. You notice mistakes. You compare yourself to others. This comparison slows you down. Listening and reading do not trigger this self-judgment. Speaking brings attention inward. Too much attention blocks flow. Flow is necessary for speaking. All these reasons combine: time pressure, exposure, coordination, habit, self-judgment. Together, they make speaking feel harder. But harder does not mean impossible. It means speaking needs a different environment. An environment with less pressure, more safety, more time. When speaking is trained gently, difficulty reduces. And when difficulty reduces, confidence grows. Speaking is not failing you. It is waiting for the right conditions. And those conditions can be created slowly, patiently, without force. Fear is one of the strongest blocks to speaking. Not lack of vocabulary, not lack of grammar, fear. Fear appears the moment you want to speak. Your heart beats faster. Your mind becomes tight. Your mouth feels dry. This is not language failure. This is a stress response. The brain thinks speaking is risky. It thinks, what if I make a mistake? What if I sound stupid? What if they do not understand me? These thoughts activate protection. Protection means silence. Silence feels safer than mistakes. Self-judgment makes fear stronger. You listen to yourself before you even speak. You judge pronunciation, you judge grammar, you judge speed. This judgment slows everything down. Speaking needs flow. Judgment stops flow. When you judge yourself, your attention moves inward. You stop focusing on meaning. You focus on performance. Performance pressure blocks communication. Fear also affects memory. When fear is present, words disappear. You know the words. You understand them, but they are not accessible. This is normal. Stress blocks access. It does not delete knowledge. Fear also creates avoidance. After a few difficult moments, you stop trying, you choose listening, you choose silence. This creates a habit of not speaking. The brain learns silence is safe. Breaking this habit requires safety, not force, not pressure. Fear reduces when speaking feels low risk, when mistakes feel allowed, when speed does not matter. Self-judgment reduces when attention moves outward. You focus on the message. You focus on the person, not on yourself. This shift is important. Speaking is communication, not performance. When you remove the idea of performance, fear softens. When fear softens, words return. Not perfectly, but enough. And enough is how speaking begins. Fear and self-judgment do not mean you cannot speak. They mean speaking needs a safer space. And safety is something that can be created, step by step, without pressure. Speaking needs practice, but not the same practice as studying. Studying builds knowledge. Speaking builds ability. Knowledge and ability are not the same. You can know many words and still not speak. You can understand many sentences and still stay silent. This happens because studying trains the mind. Speaking trains the body and the brain together. When you study, you think. When you speak, you act. Action needs repetition in real conditions. Studying often happens in slow time. You can stop. You can think. You can correct yourself. Speaking happens in real time. You must respond even when you are not ready. This is why speaking needs a different kind of practice. Speaking practice must feel safe. If practice feels stressful, the brain closes. Closed brains do not speak. Safe practice keeps the brain open. Open brains experiment. Experimentation is how speaking grows. Speaking practice also needs simplicity. You do not need long sentences. You do not need perfect grammar. You need simple messages, short answers, basic ideas, common expressions. This reduces pressure. Pressure blocks speech. Another important point is repetition of output. You must say similar things again and again. Not new sentences every time. Repetition builds automatic response. Automatic response reduces thinking. Reduced thinking increases fluency. Speaking practice also needs low speed. Slow speaking is not bad speaking. Slow speaking gives the brain time. Time allows words to appear. Fast speaking comes later. Another difference between speaking practice and studying is feedback. Speaking does not need constant correction. Too much correction creates fear. Fear stops speech. Gentle feedback supports growth. Sometimes no feedback is better, because the goal is expression, not perfection. Speaking practice also works best in short moments. You do not need long conversations. One sentence, one response, one short exchange. These small moments add up. Speaking grows from use, Not from rules. Rules help later. Use comes first. When you practice speaking in a way that feels safe, simple, and repetitive, the gap between understanding and speaking begins to close, not suddenly, but steadily. This is why speaking needs a different kind of practice than studying. Speaking does not need to start with pressure. It can start gently. Many learners believe if I want to speak, I must push myself. But pushing often creates fear. Fear blocks words. Gentle speaking does the opposite. It invites words. To start speaking gently, you lower expectations. You do not try to sound fluent. You do not try to sound correct. You try to sound present. Presence is enough. You can begin with very small output. One word, one short phrase, one simple sentence. This is speaking. It counts. You do not need a full conversation. You only need a moment of voice. Another gentle way to start speaking is repetition. You repeat what you hear, not loudly, not perfectly, just softly. This repetition builds muscle memory. Muscle memory reduces thinking. Reduced thinking allows speech. Speaking gently also means choosing safe situations. You speak when you are alone. You speak when no one is listening. You speak without being judged. Safety is important. The brain speaks when it feels safe. You can speak to yourself. You can speak while walking. You can describe what you see. Simple descriptions train expression. No grammar focus, no correction, just expression. Another gentle step is slow speed. You speak slowly. You pause. You breathe. Slow speech gives the brain time. Time brings words forward. Fast speech comes later. Gentle speaking also means accepting mistakes. You do not stop when a mistake appears. You continue. Continuing is more important than correctness. Each gentle attempt builds confidence. Confidence comes from experience, not from thinking. Over time, these small moments add up. Speaking starts to feel familiar. Not comfortable yet, but possible. And possible is the beginning. You do not force speaking. You allow it. And allowed speaking grows naturally, step by step, without fear, without pressure. Understanding and speaking do not connect instantly. They meet slowly, quietly. At first, understanding grows alone. You listen, you follow. You know what people mean. Speaking stays behind. This feels uncomfortable, but it is temporary. Understanding is the input. Speaking is the output. Input must be strong before output feels safe. When understanding becomes stable, something changes. The brain feels confident. It knows the sounds. It knows the patterns. It knows the situations. This confidence creates space. Space for speaking to appear. Speaking does not arrive as full sentences. It arrives as small pieces. A word, a short answer, a familiar phrase. These pieces come from understanding. They are recycled. This is important. You do not create speech from nothing. You reuse what you have heard many times. The more stable your understanding is, the easier this reuse becomes. Over time, speaking starts to feel less risky. You stop thinking, is this correct? You start thinking, can they understand me? This shift changes everything. Communication becomes the goal, not perfection. As communication improves, flow improves. Flow reduces fear. Reduced fear allows more speaking. This creates a new cycle. Understanding feeds speaking. Speaking strengthens understanding. They support each other. Slowly, naturally. There is no moment when speaking suddenly appears. There is only gradual connection. One day, you notice something. You answer without translating. You react without planning. You speak without panic. These moments are small, but they are real. They mean the gap is closing. Understanding and speaking are learning to work together. This process cannot be rushed, but it can be trusted. If you understand English but cannot speak yet, you are not stuck. You are in between. And in between is not a bad place. It is a bridge. Keep listening. Keep understanding. Keep allowing small speech. One day speaking will feel less like effort and more like response. And when that happens, you will realize something. You are not silent because you could not speak. You were silent because you were still preparing. Now, the preparation is turning into voice. Naturally, you've reached the end of today's episode. Before you leave, I want you to remember one simple thing. You did something good for yourself today. You listened. You stayed. You didn't give up. And that matters. Learning English is not about being fast. It is not about being perfect. It is about showing up again and again. Some days will feel easy. Some days will feel hard. Both are normal. Progress does not always feel exciting. Sometimes it feels quiet. Sometimes you don't notice it at all. But learning is still happening. Every minute you listen, your ears are learning new sounds. Your mind is learning new patterns. Your confidence is growing, even if you cannot see it yet. You don't need to push yourself. You don't need to compare yourself to others. You are on your own path, and your pace is enough. Let English be part of your daily life. Listen while you rest. Listen while you work. Listen while you live your normal day. If this episode helped you feel calmer, more focused, or more motivated, then your time here was well spent. Come back when you can. Come back when you need a quiet space to learn. My name is Linda, and this is Podcast for English. Thank you for learning with me. Until next time, keep going and never give up. Believe in yourself, because you are stronger than you think.